captain hindsight uniforms, going back to the tactics thing, there were two big calls, right? One is David Raya. I'm glad Juls isn't here so I can bring it up and say, like, and again, with all the love and respect in the world for Arteta, what he said at the time, it's just like a midfielder. You choose based on the opponent, Raya or Ramsdale. It's obviously not. I'm assuming, given that Raya has played every game that he's played every game since he chose Raya, except for that League Cup nonsense they were involved in. It basically says that no, Raya is his number one, right? Unless Arteta wakes up tomorrow and says, we won't be playing from the back. We'll just see who we'll have the goalkeeper boot it, in which case Ramsdale might play. This thing with Raya playing for, how much does it add? And I want to get you, Rob, on this, but also you too, Mark, because you've got a piece coming up, coming out on this very subject.
In terms of,
if you get pressed, you have an extra guy you can pass to, right? There's always a free man. That's the idea.
So you've got to have a goalkeeper that's decent on the ball. That's a must in today's game. And it's not just playing out from the back, it's decision making. Raya looked as though he couldn't see a decision. And that comes down to the coach as well. Have you not planned that when it comes back to you, here's your 2 or 3 options. You can go into there, you can go there, and if it's not on, you go longer.
Well,
it's obvious in the game.
Can I ask about that? Because that's really important. This is the one situation, right, where you're starting where you can decide everything. It's almost like in American football when a quarterback, hikes the ball. You can tell people where you want them to stand, where they're moving. It's like a set piece, but you're actually playing with it, right? Yeah. Are you suggesting you would have expected to see some basic patterns of play where Raya would have 1, 2, 3, 4 reads and options and
absolutely.
stuff?
Absolutely.
Does he have them and he's not executing because he's not particularly good?
Well, that's what we don't know. I mean, when I was lucky enough to play as a youngster under a coach called John Cartwright, who was the England youth team manager, and it was a time in the early 80s where he wanted everybody to play out from the back because that's what the foreign teams did, and if you're playing international football, that's what we wanted to do. And I was the sweeper. And we had significant plays. The right back ran their left winger out the way so that a midfield player could go out there and get the ball. Right. The 2 centre halves would split, and I'd come through with the ball. And so you had all these set moves.
So you were doing this 40 years ago. So we assume Arteta's doing this now, but just Raya's not executing.
As though Raya didn't have a thought in his head where my next pass is going to be. And there was one obvious pass to me that was on all the time, was the big switcher play from, when he had time on the ball to hit Jesus. Yes, he was up against Guardiola, but he didn't have to play it in the air. He could have played it almost into the feet so Jesus could. That was the ball that caused Man City most problems. But he kept on putting his foot on the ball, looking at everybody, no, I won't pass it there. I will. Of course, it causes them problems.
Yeah, I think one of the problems we've got as well is that it was a late signing in the window. So I don't think Arsenal have worked on this. And I think... Listen, similar one with United and Onana, but I think to have a ball-playing keeper, and you have to make sure that your outfield players are aware of what he wants to do with it, how he wants to do it, and the keeper understands what he's got in front of him. Now, you can't just change one sort of goalkeeper for another without working on it, and you have to be a really, really good team to have a ball-playing keeper. And
but let's go back to the last. Ramsdale made quite a few mistakes when he was playing. He was the last 6 or 7 games last season. Every time he got the ball, I thought he was going to give it away. So he's not a great goalkeeper.
No, but are the players in front of him comfortable enough on the ball to be able to deal with it and to be able to make the space for the goalkeeper? I mean, we're talking about, Pep brought this in really, but Claudio Bravo that season at City was a disaster. It didn't work and he was awful. Eventually got Edison brought in, and I think you have to work on it, but your defenders and midfielders also have to be capable of playing with it. Now, I think Arsenal have got a decent chance with their defenders. I think they're much more comfortable on the ball than the Man United defenders are. You've got Onana at Old Trafford who has got 4 defenders in front of him oftentimes who don't want the ball at the feet. I think it's a bit different at Arsenal, but you can't just drop a keeper in because Ramsdale started the season playing a certain way, and then the Everton game away from home, all of a sudden raising goal, and then the defenders have got to play a different way. They've got to face a different way, haven't they, really? Rather than looking forward, they've got to look over the shoulder thinking, is he passing it short? Is he going long? And it's just confusion. And one last thing, the fans at the Emirates don't understand it because they were getting really, really agitated yesterday. Now, I think they're worried about the risks that he's taking, but that's what Arteta wants. He came after the game and said, I want him to do that. So the fans also have to get on side because if the fans are getting edgy and jittery, it'll reflect onto the pitch as well.
I mean, in a very cruel, heartless sort of sport, asset accounting of players. Arteta has a bit of luxury. He's given Raya all the support. He's come out and he said, even like you just told us, Mark, this is what I want him to do. If it doesn't work out, you're not on the hook because he's only on loan, right? And you ship him back to Brighton or wherever he came from. So, not that in a really cruel way, there is kind of a more limited downside than if, say, you'd spent 50 million on him, like maybe that club at Old Trafford.
So I think it says more, in my view, that he doesn't like Ramsdale. That's what it says. He's not, because Arsenal fans will say Ramsdale was brilliant for them last year. Pundits will say he was brilliant. I didn't think he was quite so good.
North London derby, that wins you a lot of credit.
And it just tells me Arteta doesn't fancy him.